Good morning, everybody. Hey, welcome to part 2 in our series titled Funerals. What to say? Kind of like I discussed yesterday, going to a funeral of a close brother of mine this weekend, and so I've been praying on that, and it's kind of been my focus. One of the things that we all see happen around the time of a passing of a loved one, especially if they were a believer, is one thing you hear a lot is, well, they're no longer suffering, especially as in this case, they've dealt with cancer or something of a tumor or things of that nature. They're no longer suffering. I'm glad because they're no longer suffering. Or it was their time. God called them to be home. These things are good. I mean, they're showing a concern for the individual, but at the same token, they're also showing that this individual was hurting. This individual was, it reminds people of the pain, the torment, or the agony that person was going through. So I got to ask you a question, and I wrote these down so I wouldn't forget, so I'm going to look down. Which of these phrases give the grieving family or close ones more support and comfort? Okay, which of these phrases? He or she doesn't have to suffer anymore. Okay, that makes them think, right? They're like, no, they're not suffering. That's a good thing, right? Well, how about, instead of saying that, what if you said his or her attitude during their struggle was very encouraging and inspiring to me? See the difference? Now you're telling the grieving person that lost a loved one or lost someone close to them, you're telling them that this individual, although suffering, everybody knew they were suffering, their attitude, they were an inspiration. They were a light, even during their suffering. That picks up the loved ones. They're like, man, this person really was that. Or how about this one? What about this? What about, it was their time. God called them home, right? I mean, that's a common one. Instead of saying that, say, I learned so much from them. Their love, their guidance, their example of faith is something for all of us to emulate. Wow. Now that's so much more powerful when someone's grieving. Someone says that to you when you're grieving, you're going, man, this person, my loved one was an example. They was a pillar of faith and love. And you take pride in that. In Hebrews chapter 12 verse 1, and I suggest you go read Hebrews chapter 11 first. Hebrews chapter 11, the author of Hebrews gives example after example after example of Christians who faithfully served the Lord and then passed away. And when he comes into chapter 12, he writes this. He writes, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith. A huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith. He didn't say, oh, they got called to be with the Lord. They're no longer suffering. There were several of them in there that suffered a lot. They died by stoning, beheading. I mean, they suffered. The author didn't say they went to be with the Lord. They're not suffering. No, he said, we're surrounded by a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith. Celebrate that life. Use it as an example to light your way. So, my daily drink today is this. Instead of pointing out that, the individual's gone, not suffering, turn it to the positive. Tell the grieving ones how much of an example this individual was that you should emulate. How inspiring they were, how loving they were, how much of a motivator, of a mentor they were to you. And that will carry on further than you can imagine. That's my daily drink. Y'all be blessed. We'll see you tomorrow.